And we are live. And the good news, or I don't know, bad news, depending on your outlook today, is no traffic jam this morning. So I suppose that's some slight good news, at least to start the day. But yes, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome one and all to the Good Morning Walk. It's once again, an absolutely fantastic day to have a bit of a walk. The sun is in the sky. There's a nice, not too breezy wind, but it's a nice bit of a wind to keep it at least cool a bit. Oh, we've got some people joining us now. Good morning to you. I can't see you on the screen, but I can see that you've popped in. So good morning to you. Good morning to other people joining us as well. Like I say, as you can see, it's an absolutely fantastic morning today. Disagree with that. Before we start, I think we've walked past this a couple of times, but I think I've never really shown it. This in the back here, this little cage. I don't know if you can see it properly. I'll show you it. This little cage here. So this is actually a natural spring that forms like a main part of the river. It's run by Yorkshire Water, because that's what they do. But the bizarre thing about it is, why is there a cage around it? And not all of that, why do Yorkshire Water spend so much money every year? As you can see, it's been battered and almost knocked down, partly because the cows and horses come along into the field, just start rubbing up against it, and then end up destroying the entire cage. But yes, good morning, good morning, good morning. I say there's now a couple more people joining us today. Excellent, excellent, excellent. As they say, get them in. Pull out your seats, sort your coffee out, sit down, and let's get ready to do this. So, where to begin? So, tell you what, we'll start with the news from Australia that's been breaking out, because I've been telling you for the past couple of weeks about how the Brexiteers have been absolutely desperate on so many fronts to try and essentially get a deal with Australia. And like many of the, shall we say, pre-referendum and referendum times promises, this was like the big prize. This was the big goal of it all. This was the point of Brexit for all these free market fundamentalists in the Brexiteer camp. They want absolutely zero tariffs on everything, and basically for the government to get out of the way completely of the market, and that somehow, if we achieve this, then we will have achieved some sort of perfect equilibrium with, I don't know, but essentially, whenever you hear the Brexiteers talk about, quote, free trade, it's exactly like, well, they've just discovered it, when indeed they haven't. This whole idea of the notion of Brexiteer free trade goes all the way back to the early 1800s, where we tried this concept as a country, and it didn't work because we ended up having to introduce the Corn Laws, and that was essentially signaled the end of the idea of this openness of, free trade, at the time of what was called the free trade fundamentalism. But that was the big problem with all this. It's, if you set your tariffs to zero, then that means you expose your home market to incredibly cheap imports. And that, of course, means that jobs, the key word here being jobs, go overseas, or the businesses that have jobs here can't compete and then go under. That's what essentially what the Tories are essentially trying to do with this, free market fundamentalist nonsense that they continually harp on about. And you'll have to excuse me again, because this is the bad thing about during the summer. I can see the screen, I can see the comments, but I can't actually read them because the sun is just completely blinding them out. So good morning to everyone else who's joining us. I can't even see the viewer counts. So, oh, amazing. 48 people in. Excellent. Good. Keep on packing them in. Like I say, welcome, one and all. We're just talking about Australia before we jump into other stuff today, because, well, as we said at the beginning, the goal of Brexit was to attract this true form of free trade deals that would re-signal Britain's return to its eminent, trading power that it once was. But as we've said before, that can never ever happen. Hence why they are so desperate to go and do trade deals with places like Australia, New Zealand, Canada and the US. They're absolutely desperate to do trade deals with these places, India included. Because it's the recreation essentially of something that we talked about again all those years ago, and has continuously popped up again time after time. The whole idea of Empire 2.0. That somehow, again, we do a trade deal with these people and we profit. But again, it's not how trade works. But that's what you get when you deal with Tories, because to them, their ideology should always work. Their ideology should never, ever fail. We saw that with, austerity. It's all right, we cut all this money and somehow we'll be fine. And yet they managed to somehow balloon our debt even more. Morning. I do love the long dogs, the noodly dogs, greyhound, greyhound type dogs. I probably should have shown you as it sped past. But yeah, the idea of these, they are married almost to their ideas. And if their ideas ever fail, well, it's not the ideology's fault. It's clearly the fault of something else. You know, something else is the problem here. You know, it's never our fault. You know, we can't change course. We can't do anything because the ideology should be right, but it never is. And this is the problem that we've seen time after time after time with the Tories in power. But you can't continue doing essentially this nonsense and essentially keep on expecting not only to get away with it, but for it to continue to work. And one of the big things that especially the Brexiteers forgot about in this great sovereignty argument that, you know, we're told Brexit was always about until it's not about sovereignty, is that modern trade deals are all about give and take of sovereignty. You know, you give up something for something in return. That's how modern trade deals work. That's how the EU has been so good, because everyone pools their sovereignty together for a shared good and a shared goal. And already we've had Liz Truss trying to negotiate essentially the Australian deal at speed. And the only two things we know about it so far is we definitely know about the 0% tariffs on Australian beef. We know about that one. And also the potential for the secret corporate courts, which could essentially lead to Australian companies suing British government for making laws or regulations that affect their profits. So that's what we know is potentially in this deal. And it becomes so worrying for the fact that it does look that we were so desperate to try and sign this deal with Australia that who knows what else we've given up. You know, I've said it before, the trade deals are not literally done and signed away with in like 6 weeks. That's not how they're done. That's not how they're done. You know, they normally take, even other countries around the world, they normally take quite a long time to negotiate. You're talking at least between 7 to 10 years on average. And yet Liz Truss has come along and somehow almost managed to do one in less than 6 weeks. That's like, what the best way I can describe it is, if you had a university project, let's say everyone knows about, you know, the dissertation, like your big final, you know, university project in your third year. that you spend like your entire year working on. You know, it's like the final thing that you do almost in uni that you hand in. And you've meant to have had the entire year working on it. But instead, you've left it to the last minute, to like the last almost 2 to 3 days. And you're meant to do a year's work, or it's meant to take you like a year's work to do this project and pack it into essentially 2 to 3 days. How well do you think that dissertation is going to look? And now think about our trade deal. A deal done in less than I think it's like 6 weeks or something they've spent negotiating this. And we've already seen the comments from Australia saying how desperate we are to sign a deal. I think when the details of this come out, Britain is going to get absolutely bent over a barrel by this deal. I really do mean that. And it gets even worse because there is meant to be a committee that is meant to be scrutinising this deal so that they can report on it. And this committee is not yet even in place to scrutinise a deal before it's even signed. So, if the Australian deal is going to be as bad as we all hear it is, then those committee meetings, those committee hearings are going to be an absolute hoot. An absolute hoot. You know, I dread to think, I really do, what else is in that deal. I really, really honestly do. Because it's not in any way, shape or form gonna be good. Not in any way, shape or form gonna be good. And of course, the latest news, as you may have seen my video on Friday, is unless Australia gets its 0% tariff on its beef, then Australia has said that it is perfectly willing to walk away because it is not going to sign a deal that isn't in its interests. Oh, I can see now. I can see the screen at last. So much for our sovereignty when Australia can basically gets to turn around and say, hey, we're going to impose our sovereignty now as well. Whoops. But that's the unfortunate point that, this all comes down to when you're making trade deals. It's not just about you negotiating your sovereignty away for stuff that benefits your country. It's about that other country also negotiating their sovereignty and getting stuff that benefits them as well. Like I say, trade deals are good, but some of the biggest problems you have with trade deals is that the other side wants stuff as well. Yeah. That is true, Chris. The Australians could put poisonous steaks down in Cornwall and then charge us for the privilege. Yes, that's true. And one of the worst things is if you think leaving the EU was hard, wait until you see how difficult it is to try and get out of a trade deal. Because once a trade deal has been signed, it is very, very difficult to actually get out of it. And yeah, it all goes massively up in flames. But in a way, you know, it ends up being good because we get to once again show just how good it was being in the EU. You know, we had that shared sovereignty, we had that pooled, you know, trade power together. But not anymore. And like I say, from really this start of this year onwards is now when the Brexiteers can start to, quote, chart the successes of Brexit. And of course, there ain't been any substantial successes yet. Oh, we've got a Dalmatian. No, now there is. Morning. And then I see someone saying, it's all right, we've got a trade deal with Liechtenstein. The thing is, you look at that trade deal, and that trade deal is objectively worse than the deal when we were in the single market. Which brings us around to our main topic of conversation. The problem that was never a problem until the Brexiteers decided to make it a problem. You know, this is it, you know. You can look back at the referendum and you can really try and look hard for what are essentially quotes of Brexiteers making about, you know, Northern Ireland. They all said, don't worry about it, it's not going to be a problem. There we go. There we go. There we go. And that's honestly in stark contrast, in massively stark contrast to what we're seeing today. So we've got some pony smoke there for you. Yeah, and you are right, Helen. It's not a problem if you don't care about Northern Ireland. Which the Tories have shown that they don't, essentially. Considering they spent all that... know. But yeah, something which, again, you look back at, like the referendum, and every single Brexiteer, when the issue of Northern Ireland's brought up, their pretty much patented response was, don't worry about it, it'll be fine because X, or because it just somehow won't be a problem. And yet, you look at where we are today. If you want an idea of how bad customs are going to be later on this year, as the UK now has to start putting on more checks at the border, then we are in for a very, very interesting time. Because the issues that are going on in Northern Ireland at the moment are exactly the ones we're about to face. And quite frankly, let's get up this hill. There we go. Yeah, have they just asked, have they started doing any checks? Well, at the end of this month, I think, this is officially when some of the first checks start to come in. And again, what's funny is that some of the really big checks have been pushed down the road to October or even March of next year. So this is just going to be a continuing developing car crash. And it's just going to be a slow crash. You know, I've often described Brexit as being the train crashing, and we can all see it's going to crash. It's just a matter of when the wheels come off the track. And the problem is, what's happening now is that the wheels are coming off the track, but someone's pressed the slow motion button, and we are now watching the crash happen in slow motion. That's the best way to describe what's happening now. So the crash has happened, but someone's pressed the magic, slow button, and we're now watching it in 0.25th of a speed. So, as always, the key issue around Northern Ireland, of course, is that the Good Friday Agreement stipulated that there would never be a hard border between the Republic and Northern Ireland, essentially. That is, and always has been, the key sticking point. Always remember, when any Brexiteer is talking about Northern Ireland, keep that point in your head. There's one reason to think about any of this mess in Northern Ireland. You've got to remember that point. Because the second you recognise that we've got to have this open border, the more it makes sense for us to be closer aligned with the EU. It makes sense for us to be in the single market and customs union. It makes sense for us to have maybe like a Swiss-style agreement, which the government this week has also turned down. Because even though, again, this is the solution that we came up with. Oh, pardon me. This is the solution, this Northern Ireland Protocol, that essentially puts the border in the Irish Sea, is a solution that we came up with as the British, not the EU. And you can go back. We live in this wonderful media age, and you can literally see Brexiteers, praising the EU protocol, saying how a wonderful thing it is. Look at how wonderful this thing does for us. Oh. Got some lambs for you this morning. Ta-da! I think the goat's in there somewhere as well. But there you can see them. So yeah, this is such a bizarre situation. And someone just pointed out that the government don't want a solution. And bear in mind, the Northern Ireland Protocol was meant to be their solution to this problem. Boris Johnson was only back on TV in December, less than 6 months ago, saying how wonderful this deal was and how we get everything we ever wanted from this deal. None of it makes sense. But that's Brexit for you in a nutshell. None of this was meant to make sense. So, what are the potential solutions? So, what are... Oh, rabbit, too late. So, what are the actual solutions to this problem? Well, the first of all is we follow the Northern Ireland Protocol. Something that we signed up for and agreed to that we would follow, which essentially keeps Northern Ireland in the EU customs agreement, in the single market. But for all intents and purposes, there now is a border between Northern Ireland and the rest of England, meaning that there have to be checks at that border. Right, that's one solution. That's one solution to this problem. But our government has essentially decided that it doesn't want to do that. Even though they agreed to it, it was an idea they came up with. And you had Johnson saying that there would never be a border, but there is now. And we are in a stupid situation of where he does not want to follow his own rules. And we have seen, obviously this week, the sausage wars could be on. Because we are not in the EU anymore, we are now a third country, we now have to follow third country rules. Rules which, remember, we helped design and make. So we knew exactly what was going to happen. It's just that the Brexiteers didn't understand what they actually were doing. You know, like I said, they had an idea that the EU would just roll over for us, and somehow, magically, we would maintain single market access without any of the downsides to them. Of course, never turned out that way. Nope. Never turned out that way at all. So now we've got more checks coming online at the Irish border, because they came online a lot more faster than our border, essentially, because that's what we signed up to a point now that we won't be able to send frozen processed meats over to Northern Ireland. And again, a rule we helped make. But there you go. Nope. Baby 4. And of course, one man and his many dogs. You can see them in the background. I think we've got one, two. Yeah, that man's got 7 dogs with him. So it's, yeah, one man and his many dogs. Yeah, so there's your well, they're not, these aren't technically ponies. I think these are full-blown horses. Like I say, one man and his many dogs. See, I think he's got about 7 or 8 dogs there. Oh. So before we continue our little talk about Northern Ireland, please do remember to hit that like button, and of course the share button as well. It helps out the channel massively. And of course, we get more people in, and you know, more people in, the better it is. And of course, if you would like to help support the channel in another way, there are links down below to my Patreon page should you like to support me on a monthly basis. There is also the one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. Like I say, thank you to all those people who do buy me a coffee every so often. Thank you very much. And of course, now we have, someone has reminded, the Pony Club, which are the YouTube memberships. And if you join the Pony Club, you gain access to unique emojis that you can use on this channel as well as in live chats. And like I say, the more people we get joining the Pony Club, the more emojis that we can that I can make for the chat. At the moment, I've got about, I think, 5 different ones, and I've got 3 more of the first lot of that I commissioned left to upload. And like I say, once those have all gone up, I'm then going to commission some more emojis, because quite frankly, we need a Jeff Taylor. We need a Jeff Taylor emote. But also actual some little pony emotes, if that makes sense. But yes, like I say, and thank you to everyone who does support the channel. Even if you don't use the links down below, even if you just press the like or share button, like I say, thank you very much. Like I say, every little bit does support the channel. So, one solution, a Jeff Taylor remote, you would explode. Like I said, that's actually an interesting question. Has anyone actually seen Jeff outside of his channel? Because I definitely want to find this, because there was a talk, and I can't remember who had it, but I think it was him, a guy called the West Mona or the West Monster, something like that. Oh, Yumika, thank you very much. Club logo, ponies in bowler hats. How did you know? How did you know that was our logo? Like I say, one day when we get to a lot bigger level, I will print like I will make some polo shirts with that logo on. So when we're big enough to do that, I'll do that, especially for you, Yumika. So yeah, and like I say, we did talk about Darren Grimes last Wednesday. That was fun. And like I say, next Wednesday, I don't know who we're going to, shall we say, visit again. Like I say, if there's someone new that you want me to go pay a visit to, do let me know. I know there is one guy that you keep on recommending to me, but I can't remember what this channel name is now. But I think he's from Scotland. And I can't do him because he swears a lot during his videos. And like I say, I'm a good boy on YouTube. I'm a good boy, so I want to keep my monetization status. So unfortunately, I can't cover him. But yes, I have seen his videos, and they would be quite fun to do, but we can't do it because I'd lose my monetization, because he's very, very sweary. So like I say, please do let me know if there are other people in the Brexit sphere, should we call it, that you want me to do on a Wednesday, and we'll have a we'll have an adventure. But back to what we were talking about. So how do you solve these solutions to Northern Ireland when, again, this wasn't a problem, but now you've made it a problem? Well, the government has no absolute interest at all in essentially following something that they only signed up to a couple of weeks ago. That's really shocking, and you can pretty much tell that by the fact that Johnson went and put Frost in charge of the negotiations. Why on earth would you do that? And like I say, it's kind of shocking that their solution just seems to be get rid of it, and then the plan again to solve this problem is what exactly? They haven't got a single thing to actually replace it with. Unless Johnson's actual plan is to actually rejoin the Single Market and Customs Union, which, for all intents and purposes, renders Brexit completely pointless. But, like I say, at the referendum, those immortal words were uttered of only a fool would leave the single market. And of course, we are clearly run by fools. And you can tell that by the fact that we've seen so many opinion pieces from Brexiteers, from the, even Daniel Hannan, aka, the brain of Brexit, doesn't even have any practical solutions. His idea would essentially be his idea would essentially be that we just get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, and then essentially we use something, rather than mutually assured standards, we basically would use an honour system where we would trust companies, people and businesses not to break the law. And that is the serious thinking that a guy who sells himself on as being like the intellectual artillery of Brexit, the idea, the master planner, the guy who continuously talks about how wonderful free trade is, but doesn't talk about any of its drawbacks that it would have to the UK economy. It's almost like all these guys have a pattern to them. But again, that's the big problem about all this. They don't have any solutions to the problems they created. And that, once again, should be incredibly shocking. But it's not at this point. And to be honest, like I say, there's this week we've had news that there would be 3 new Barnsley MPs. We've got Barnsley North, Barnsley South, and I can't remember what the other one is still. So maybe when they go looking for MPs for these constituencies, maybe I throw my hat into the ring. Because I am a member and I can be selected. I just have to get through the application process, which will be fun. Oh, sorry for that humica again. Thank you very much for the support there. The UK elite's idea is that laws are for others. Yeah, that's true. One law for them, one law for their own. That is what we seem to be true. I mean, also this week, you have to remember, the Good Law Project, by the way, if you don't follow them, squirrel, if you don't follow them on Twitter, you should absolutely go and follow them. Because they won this week in a court of law, which basically says that Michael Gove handed out contracts, PPE contracts, and essentially committed cronyism and corruption. And yet that was nowhere nowhere to be seen, by the way, on the news this week. But unfortunately, that's the case of all things. And like I say, Labour should be taking huge advantage of this, because what they should genuinely be doing is seriously putting forward anti-corruption laws and tightening up our system. Because you may remember when the bullying report about Priti Patel came out, the guy who was in charge of that report resigned because the Prime Minister refused to acknowledge that that was a thing. And he then resigned. And he is part of the internal watchdog that helps look over MPs. Now, of course, that seat has not yet been filled yet. Why? Because that seat is a seat that the Prime Minister himself has to appoint. So why on earth would Boris Johnson appoint a watchdog when we know there are probably countless other people watching, engaged in the Tory party in essentially corruption and cronyism. Like, also we had the guy who got made a lord and then donated a load of money to the Tory party. Like I say, these are very, very easy wins for Labour. But they're not doing them because there is this ridiculous fear. And we've seen it here, by the way, on this channel, of people saying, oh, Labour can't put out policies, Labour can't put out a manifesto yet because the Tories might do it, or or they might, poo-poo it. That, that's what the opposition is for. It's meant to be putting out, it's meant to be putting out proposals that give Britain an alternative. And at the moment, they're really failing that. And I think the main problem is that they don't know what to do. But there are people out there shouting at them, this is what you do, me included. And like I say, this is why I joined the Tory party the Labour Party to begin with. Because I want to get more progressive policies onto the Labour agenda. And like I say, if you want to do that, that is how you do it. And like I say, if you want a perfect example, look to America. Now, again, Joe Biden's not, he's not 100% perfect candidate. He's has abandoned some of the stuff that he said he might do, but other stuff he is doing. So we know this can work, and I've said this before, the only way the left can actually achieve power is through the Labour Party. And unless you can get in there and start to make changes and start to actually show them that yes, people will vote for progressive policies and for proper fundamental change, which, by the way, a lot of people during this pandemic, when we come out of it, are going to want some serious fundamental changes to our society. then that's how we've got to do it. And we've got to push for more change, because if you seriously want change in this country, and I'm generally talking serious change in this country, you have to participate. If you do not participate in politics and you want change, then you might as well be, throwing water to the wind, because it ain't gonna work unless you participate properly. Ain't gonna work. And we've seen a couple of interesting articles this week about the shifting demographics in this country that will signal some very good and progressive changes in the future. Thing is, we just have to be bold and ambitious enough to actually be able to do it. And I believe we can do that. And I believe that through that, change will be possible. But we just have to be brave enough to do it. And yes, that does mean from time to time that we will lose. But what you do, pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, learn from your mistakes, and carry on. That's what we have to do. And until we do that and we realize that, it ain't gonna happen. And like I say, I think one of the big points, I think one of the big protests you could see coming up in this country soon is going to be protests against us joining the CTTP. I can see that being a massive issue. When it comes down to it. And like I say, hopefully we'll have some serious protest about it. Because ironically, in a way, everything that the Brexiteers said about us being bad, being in the EU, is actually real and a present threat to British industry and jobs. Oh, thank you very much, Helen Walker. Thank you very much for the support there. Like I say, the serious threats come from that, us being in that trade bloc. And I think, honestly, those protests are going to be interesting. Those could be very, very interesting. Again, we're going to have to see what happens in all this. It could be very, very interesting, those protests, to say the least. But yeah, back to Northern Ireland, because we went on a massive tangent there. So yeah, Boris's solution is either A, he enforces the Northern Ireland Protocol, which in turn will bring its own problems with it. He either A, decides that he's going to indulge essentially in magical thinking and pretty much somehow, again, we don't know what on earth he would do, or what ridiculous plan the Brexiteers have. Well, actually, the new plan this week has been to try and force Northern Ireland out of the single market and into the UK's own market. I kid you not, that is what a lot of the Brexiteers have been saying this week. That somehow we are going to recolonize, because that's essentially what they are suggesting. And I can't believe, again, I can't believe every time that I've heard it said this week that this is how somehow a good plan that we would recolonize Ireland. I've genuinely been absolutely gobsmacked. I have been absolutely gobsmacked when I've heard this. There is no way in their right mind. First of all, Ireland would not allow that. Ireland would be like, hell no, we ain't doing that. The EU would also not allow a member state to be shunted out of its orbit against their will. That ain't gonna happen. But again, this is the level of delusion that we are playing with in the UK. And like I say, British politics, wow. Wow. If it's not one thing, it's another. So who was saying this? Mark Francois, I think, said it this week. Who was the other one? Who was the other Tory peer? Who was the other Tory guy that said it this week? Oh, I can't remember now. But yeah, I'm 2 to 3 people have said it this week. I know Mark Francois said it because I nearly covered him on Wednesday. And I can't remember who else said it. But yeah, that's one of the solutions. The other solution is to acknowledge that Britain is a European country and that it cannot escape trade gravity, and just accept and just rejoin the single market, the European Economic Area. But that means accepting closer ties with Europe. And as a lot of Brexiteers have said, well, what's the point of Brexit? To which we all ask, exactly. It's often bizarre how Brexiteers often ask questions which are very often the answer to their own conundrums. But there you go. Oh, so yeah, it's been an interesting week, needless to say, an interesting week. As always, thank you everyone for joining me today. As usual, it's been an absolutely super smashing great walk today, as always. Like I say, thank you so much for joining us. Like I say, please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, the One of Donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there are now the YouTube memberships open as well, aka the Pony Club. So thank you to all those people who do support the channel that way. Thank you to everyone who supported the channel today. Even if you just press that like button, like I say, it helps out the channel so much. And like I say, have a safe weekend. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend. You know, if you can't be safe, be sensible. And like I say, go and enjoy your weekend. I've got I've got to go back and practice some Hearts of Iron 4 multiplayer stuff today, because I said I'd play in a couple of games with some friends tomorrow, so we're going to be playing that probably all Sunday. And for some reason I agreed that I'd be Japan, and I'm like, so I've got to go practice my Japan gameplay in Hoi 4 today, so that could be interesting. But as always, thank you very much for joining us. Do watch out for more videos coming out this week, and of course, as on Wednesday, we will be doing another live stream covering more Brexit craziness. Like I said, I'll let you know on Monday who we'll be covering this week on the Wednesday, and of course, join us all as normal next Saturday at 8 o'clock for the Good Morning Walk again, and have an absolutely fantastic weekend, and we will see you at some point. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you all very soon.